Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody, the podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I am very excited to have Jenny Todd on as a guest. And Jenny is the vice president of the Houston chapter of the American Cancer Society. And they have a ball coming up called the Cattle Barons Ball, which is in Houston. And it's one of the most fun events you're going to find anywhere in Texas. We've been, I've been involved with it in some way, shape, or form peripherally through the media over many years. So it really is a fun event. And Jenny is a wealth of knowledge, both about the American Cancer Society, as well as what it takes to put on a good event that's really going to allow you to better connect with your donors. So with that, Jenny, welcome. And we're so excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. So share with our audience what the mission of the American Cancer Society is.
Yes, so the American Cancer Society's vision is to end cancer as we know it for everyone. And that everyone piece is key. We're the only organization attacking cancer from every angle through advocacy, research, and patient support. We're really here to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to detect, treat, and survive cancer.
That's fantastic. Now, with like with the advocacy and the prevention and all that, do you find that there's a particular lane that really kind of resonates with your audience or what you all are doing at the American Cancer Society?
I can say this. It's really because, we have so many incredible volunteers and so many donors, and everyone likes to be engaged with us in different ways. I have people who really feel passionate about research, and that really speaks to them. And then I have other people who really love, like, the patient support piece, really helping, wanting to make sure people have ride to treatment or have hotel stays if they're having traveling to Houston for cancer care. So it's really about connecting with the donor in a way that is meaningful to them.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up. In Houston, of course, I know many people, who sadly have cancer and they do come to Houston for treatment
Yes.
because of all the world-class care, especially with places like MD Anderson, that it really is it's a place where a lot of people go for that life-saving care.
It is. We are so blessed to have the Texas Medical Center here in Houston. And I'll tell you, ACS actually invests an incredible amount of money in the Houston community. We invest $26 million annually here each year, primarily through Houston based cancer research. As you mentioned, we're first in class in that space, but also through our Hope Lodge facility. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but we have a facility here in Houston called Hope Lodge. It's actually a program we do across the country for ACS, and we provide housing to cancer patients and their families traveling to Houston to treatment free of charge. And it is absolutely an incredible space. It's located in the Texas Medical Center. And not only we're providing that place for them to stay, that home away from home, that community of support, but we also offer rides to and from active cancer treatment, whether that be at, MD Anderson or Methodist or wherever they're receiving their treatment.
And that is so important. I'm glad you bring that up because, and I know that there's very, very few people on the planet that haven't been touched by cancer in some way. And anyone who's been with someone who's experienced that, after a treatment, they are extremely, extremely, extremely drained. And those are the things and the details that organizations like yours that people may forget or they may take for granted that they've got someone in their lives that can actually just take them to and from a place.
Yes, one of the biggest barriers to cancer outcomes, I'll tell you, is the ability to get to treatment. And I know that might seem crazy to somebody like me who lives in Houston, who can easily, run down the street to MD Anderson. But when you are living in a rural community, whether that be in Texas or somewhere else across the country, I can tell you my in-laws live in nowhere, Tennessee, and it takes them an hour and a half to get to a doctor's appointment. So if you are traveling to Houston for treatment and you live 40 miles or more outside of the city of Houston, you can stay with us for free at our Hope Lodge facility.
Wow, that's incredible. And that really allows, people in less populated communities to really access the
Mhm.
world-class care that while it seems like it may be so close to some, 40 miles can be so far to other people. So that's a really, I'm glad you shared that and kind of showed the impact and outreach because Houston's a geographically really big area. And there are plenty, even just in Greater Houston, there are plenty of places that are more than 40 miles from downtown Houston.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, talk a little bit, share with us. I'm always fascinated about how people get to the organizations that they're at. So talk a little bit about how you initially got involved with ACS.
So I have been in development since I got out of school, since college. So I've been doing this for 23 years. This is actually the third organization I've worked for. I've worked for two other national organizations prior to the American Cancer Society. Clearly, I love this, or I wouldn't have done it for so long, but I just can't say enough amazing things about ACS. For one, I think our team here is absolutely top notch. Our staff, our relationships with our volunteers and our donors. But I would also say, for me personally, I just feel so passionate about cancer and funding a cure. I have an 8-year-old son. I want to make sure there's at least treatment available when he gets older and he might need it. My sister had pediatric cancer. I've lost many people in my life to cancer, and I just want to do what I can to help fund that cure.
Absolutely. And, like we said earlier, there really isn't anyone who's not touched by it in some way, shape, or form, And in your case, from a child, not everyone necessarily gets touched by it in childhood, but it sounds like it's definitely something that you've experienced several times throughout your life from an early age, onward.
Yeah, it really is. It's unfortunate. And I can tell you from all the people I talk to every day, I don't know if I've met one person who told me they haven't been touched by cancer. And that's the unfortunate truth of it. I'll tell you, we have the most incredible chief patient officer, Dr. Kamal. I just can't say enough amazing things about him. But he told me recently, we will see a cure in my lifetime. And that really gives me hope, and makes me really feel like I'm really working towards something to fund. If we could just raise enough money, I know we could fund the cure.
Absolutely. And it's encouraging to hear a statement like that in our,
Mhm.
in our lifetimes, because that's something, as, people who are maybe Gen Xers start to age, that's something that we're thinking about. And the fact that there could be a cure by the time we get to that age is just, it's an amazing thing to hear. And one of the things I think for fundraising is when you've got hope behind you, that does, I don't want to say it makes it easier, but it adds more power and impact to the stories that you're trying to tell as you get and recruit donors.
It does. It does. I will say, compared to other organizations I've worked with, and as a fundraiser, obviously this is a benefit to me, but unfortunate that everyone I do talk to wants to support us. They do want to get involved. They do want to give to cancer because they're so invested. Everyone, whether it be Houston, Texas, across this country, or across this globe, has been impacted by cancer. And so it's really an impactful thing to get to work towards.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned, everyone wants to get involved. And I think a lot of times people equate involvement with financial support only. But talk about the other ways that may not be financial that people support and get involved with ACS.
Yeah, I talk to my team a lot about this. I think everyone has something to give. Not everybody can write that check, but we do have so many ways you can support our work. Just off the top of my head, we have it's an incredible, I can't say enough about our events here in Houston that support the American Cancer Society. Every event we do does over $500,000. We try to make sure that the events we are putting on have a high return on investment. So we're going to do things bigger and better than everyone else to make sure we're returning enough dollars to that mission. So every big event we have has a committee that supports it. So they can come and volunteer with that committee. And what that looks like is different based on event. But if they want to work at the event the day of, if they want to be on a say auction committee and help solicit auction items, if they want to, I mentioned Hope Lodge, if they want to come volunteer at Hope Lodge and put on events, I'm using air quotes here, put on, I say events, things that improve the patient and caregiver experience. So like that we do like bingo events, or we do, you know, cookie baking, or whatever that is, stuff for our patients and caregivers to experience at the Hope Lodge. You can come volunteer there. We also have a program called Road to Recovery, and you can volunteer to give a ride to a cancer patient to treatment. So it's like an app, it's like Uber. You can sign up to be a driver. You can get paired with a cancer patient and then be able to give them a ride to treatment. I know I just mentioned that one of the biggest barriers to cancer outcomes is being able to get to their cancer treatment. So being able to help with that. We also have a program, another app, ACS Cares, that we have. We pair volunteers with people who are going through their cancer journey. So if you live in Austin and you're a guy and you have prostate cancer and you want somebody in your similar age range who has gone through that same experience, you can go through this app and get paired with a cancer survivor who can really walk with you every step of the way through that cancer journey. So there's just so many ways to get involved. It's about figuring out like what means something to you, what's a meaningful experience for you, and how you can support our work.
That's amazing. And I love that analogy you gave towards the end about really creating a platform so that other folks who have gone through cancer can kind of pay it forward and really help somebody else who is scared and not sure where the future is going to lie. And they've got someone that they can really relate and empathize with, people in the same age range or the same type of cancer. And it's just amazing that you can do all that through an app now. It's just incredible.
Yes, it really is. It really is. And we have some incredible high tech different things you can look at. If you go to cancer.org, we have ACS Cares, we have our Road to Recovery program. We have a new tool we just launched called Cancer Risk 360, where you can go on and put in like, hey, here's my age, here's my cancer, here's my family history. What are your cancer risks? And what can you be doing right now to get some of those screenings done? Like as a woman at my age, 45, I need to be having a mammogram, a colonoscopy, a pap smear. What else do I need to be getting done on an annual basis? And so I think that's a really helpful tool. I will tell you, just as a woman, 1 in 4 women in America are behind on their cancer screenings. And that is the best way to be able to prevent, detect, treat, and survive cancer is to get your screenings. I can't say it enough.
Well, I'm glad you highlighted, at whatever age you are, there's certain things that you can do to screen. And when people are like, well, I don't know why I would need to do that. If anyone owns a car, you get that car maintenance and you don't want it to break down in the middle of the highway. And all it takes is one time for you to not do that. And it's really not that people are cars, but that's really the analogy to really, for anyone listening who may be reticent to do these things, if you're going in and scheduling maintenance with your car, you got to do the same for yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. And, I'm glad that you mentioned in one of your previous answers, you had mentioned the success of all of your events. And I want to talk, I know we're here to talk about Houston Cattle Baron. So, let's talk a little bit about that and dive in here. But the first question that I have is, so American Cancer Society is a national organization. They host fundraisers all throughout the country. There are other cattle barons within the state of Texas. So how do you, as the vice president of the Houston chapter, incorporate a local feel into cattle barons while highlighting the mission of a national organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cattle Barons Ball was actually started in Dallas 50 something years ago. Obviously, biggest fundraiser for us in the country. So there, in Dallas and Houston, close proximity. Uh, excuse me, close proximity. So they have their own identity, but I think we certainly have ours here in Houston. Of course, we have all the fantastic things you've come to know and love in Houston. Like we have the pig races, we have casino night, we have, first class entertainment. Obviously, it has quite the rodeo feel to it. Everybody's dressed up in their best rodeo chic attire with their cowboy boots and their cowboy hats. So we certainly have that. But I also think here in Houston, one of the things, and as a native Houstonian, 8th generation Texan, I feel like I can really speak to this. I feel like Houstonians are the most philanthropic people. I feel like everyone here in this community really likes to support nonprofit organizations. I also think we have such a diverse community here in Houston, diverse culture, more so than maybe other cities in Texas. And it is really a coming together of people across Houston who not only have this passion for, I guess, Texas history, that Texas chic flair, but also who have a passion for curing cancer. So it's really an incredible event. Like this past year, I think we had 1,100 people in attendance, really coming together to support this work, to fund this mission. So I don't even know if that answered the question.
It did.
I can't say enough about it.
Okay, I'm going to do one
Okay.
as a follow-up question because I'm sure someone listening is like, what is a pig race? So explain the concept of pig racing and how you incorporate that into the event.
Yeah. So yeah, and I don't even know if they have pig races at every Cattle Baron's Ball, but we definitely have it here in Houston. So there's a certain number of pigs. Let's say it's 10, and we sell, quote unquote, sell these pigs ahead of time. So you could come in and say, I want to sponsor this pig. and his name is going to be Wilbur. And so, you name your pig, he wears something that says Wilbur on it. And then when guests come, they can come and bet on the pig. So there's several rounds of pig races, right? And let's say all 10 pigs are racing. We're taking bets. And of course, bets are really just donations to the American Cancer Society on which pig will win. And if Wilbur wins, you will get a trophy or some other prize for the winning pigs. And there's several heats of this. So let's say we have, 8 pig races, and 10 pigs race each time or something. So that's how it works.
That's fantastic. And, I love the concept of that because it's almost like you're bringing the Kentucky Derby
Yeah.
indoors at a different time of the year. That's kind of like when you were saying that it's very much, it's not that different from horse racing.
Yeah. We actually had Cattle Barons Ball kickoff party we had 2 years ago. We had armadillo races there, which is a whole other similar, but a whole other experience. So armadillos, pigs, you never know what we're going to have next year.
I love that, and to
Keep
keep
it
people
fresh.
on their keep people on
Yeah.
their toes, most importantly. So, like you said, and this, you're probably one of the best equipped people I've ever had on this program to address this question. You had mentioned every single event you do pretty much raises $500,000 and up. So a lot of that has to do with selecting the right chairs for an event. So talk about how you all, as American Cancer Society and Cattle Barons Houston, go about selecting chairs so that you can raise those much needed funds.
Okay. That's a very not complicated question, but there's a lot of pieces to it. First, I'll say, depending on the event, it depends what we're looking for in a chair. So we have 6, I would say, mega events here in Houston. They all do 500,000 plus. And what we're looking for each event might change depending on the event. Obviously, Cattle Barons Ball is our biggest fundraiser. We will likely do almost $2 million on that this year. For me personally, I like to see, for Cattle Barons specifically, a proven track record of success. So if you were asked to chair Cattle Barons Ball, you were likely have been involved with us for many years. You've chaired already other fundraisers for us. You've have a proven track record of success before we would ever ask you to chair like this big mega gala. And it is. I mean, it's one of the most iconic events in Houston. And we really like to put people in those positions who have the experience to be successful in those roles. We don't want to ask you to do this if it's something you can't succeed in. So I think you have to, number one, have a lot of fundraising experience, either with us or other organizations in town. You need to have a large network of people that you can help leverage relationships with to bring in things like sponsorships, live auction items, drive attendance to the event. I would say on that same token, on the network piece, also be able to bring visibility to this event. Do you have a social media presence? Do you have a large network of friends? How are you able to, as an ambassador for the American Cancer Society, leverage and elevate our work, our mission, our brand in Houston? So it's a combination of a lot of things. We've certainly had different chairs. We've had chairs who are Houston philanthropists. We've had chairs who are more corporate focused. Maybe they're a CEO for a corporation in town. So I don't think necessarily your role or your job makes you successful. I think it's a combination of all of those things together that make you the ideal chair for this event.
Absolutely. And, I'm glad that you mentioned, some people can have a corporate background and some people can have more of a philanthropic background. And that's, because people are like, well, should I do one or the other? And, I think you proved here you can do both because they're each going to have a slightly different vibe, based on the people's backgrounds. And that really allows people to kind of walk into each event and just they know what they're getting, but they also know they're probably going to be surprised or see some things that they haven't seen before. And that's kind of, the magic of a really, really good event that sets them apart is there's just that element of you're not necessarily sure, you're sure about what 90% or 80% of what is happening, but there's that other 10 or 20% where you're surprised, and that's kind of what keeps you coming back every year.
Absolutely. We want to keep our events fresh. I was actually just talking to one of my staff about this earlier today is, we've been around for 30 plus years. What can we be doing differently? this year, the next year, the next year. You're wanting to repeat donors, right? You're never every year, of course, we have some attrition, but we want to try to keep as many donors engaged with us as possible. Well, they don't want to attend the same event 30 years in a row. So what are we doing to differentiate ourselves to keep it fresh? What new surprise do we have around the corner? And I'll tell you, doing so many events for so many years, sometimes those ideas are hard to come up with, but we try to always keep that top of mind when we're building out that event experience for our guests.
Absolutely. And, I want to dive a little bit. You had talked about committees, as kind of
Mhm.
part of your pipeline to getting, to finding event chairs for cattle barons, which is kind of the crown jewel of the 6 events that you all do every year. So let's first talk about how having a strong committee helps the chair and helps you all at American Cancer Society carry out a successful vision for the event.
Well, let me start with, as I mentioned, I feel like our cattle barons team is absolute top notch. They're all very experienced, they're all very well trained, they're exceptional at what they do. Having said that, as a nonprofit, we can only invest so much into staffing resources, right? And we're always trying to do things as efficiently as possible. So instead of bringing on another staff, we're really trying to leverage those volunteers to help drive work for us, to help take on some of those pieces that maybe we don't have the capacity to take on, or maybe our event staff don't have the networks to support. So, I would say our biggest, quote unquote, biggest committee as far as a revenue capacity would be our auction committee. Obviously, we do a significant amount of revenue in the silent auction and live auction. So that's a big piece of it. Is that those volunteers who are helping to secure big auction items that in turn drive significant revenue for the event. That's one. Obviously, we have other committees, wine, whiskey, spirits. If we're talking specifically revenue, we do a wine, whiskey, spirits pool. So we have a committee that's helping secure um, bottles, wine bottles, whiskey bottles for the pull at the auction. We have committees that a piece that handle our social events. Obviously, one of the draws to being involved in the committee is getting to network and socialize with every other like-minded individuals. But frankly, my staff planning social events for our committee is not a good use of staff time. So we have volunteers who plan those external events, for example. So really thinking about what pieces of the work can you assign out to volunteers to help drive things for you that you're not having to execute on the staffing side? I think is one of the pieces you really have to look at to help drive high ROI.
That was so well said. And every single thing that you said there, Jenny, was absolutely 100% true and absolutely spot on. And to piggyback on the committee piece, you had talked earlier about, one of the ways that you vet committee or chairs for cattle barons is through committees and subcommittees. So talk a little bit about like what advice would you give to somebody when you're looking to elevate somebody in a subcommittee? Like what are some traits that you're looking for in those people that are leading some of those subcommittees that okay, I can elevate this person and they're really going to do a bang up job chairing the event?
Yes. I would say it's all of the pieces I already talked about previously. It's about influence and affluence, network, sponsorship. Obviously, we want somebody who can help leverage their network to drive that revenue, but also ideally, we'd like someone who can also write us a check to support the event or the organization. I also think it's about who has the time to commit. I just spoke to my board chair in the car just now, and we were discussing someone as a potential chair for another event, and she was like, "What do you think about so and so?" And I'm like, "Listen, she'd be great. She can't commit to the time. And if us trying to bring on a chair who doesn't have the time to invest is a really time suck to my team because then they're having to manage that volunteer. I mean, I try to tell everyone this every volunteer we bring on, right, takes staff time away to manage. So we want to choose the most impactful volunteers for every role that we have so that we're not only driving revenue through that volunteer, but also are we doing it efficiently? Are we being smart about how we're managing those volunteers, that relationship, and that revenue?
Absolutely. All very good points and all very well said. And I want to touch back. We're gonna dive back in the event timeline a little bit here
Okay,
for a
yes.
second. So you had mentioned kickoff parties, and
Mhm.
Houston has basically Houston Cattle Barons does a kickoff party to kind of kick off the season, for lack of a better phrase. Share with us how that helped you all create buzz for the main event that you hold several months later. So it's not like we hold it on Tuesday and the event Saturday. You hold it, a pretty far timeline out from the actual event.
Yeah, historically, we've done the kickoff party in April, and then our event is in September. I mean, one, we have that timing because, to your point, trying to drive things ahead of time, but also we're doing it ahead of the summer season here in Houston. Um, we are using that as a launching pad to bring people in to say, number one, get your sponsorship commitments in early. That way you can get your benefits at the kickoff party. So it's a timeline driver helping people to commit ahead of time. Two, it's a good prospecting tool for us. So if you've never been to Cattle Barons Ball before, we can say, hey, come attend as our guest, bring your friend, see if you like it. This is just a little sneak peek onto what the actual event is like. So it's also a prospecting tool for us. And then three, to your point, I think it's visibility, right? I mean, Cattle Barons Ball is very visible in Houston, but it never hurts to get that coverage, media coverage on the front end of the event to help as a reminder to other Houstonians, Cattle Barons Ball is coming up. Make sure to attend and just trying to keep the excitement going. I mean, there are so many events in Houston. You could go to 10 events every night, 10 fundraising events. How are we differentiating ourselves? How are we reminding people? How are we staying front of mind in all that we're doing? So yeah, that's what I would say is for the purpose behind the kickoff party.
Like I said, the Houston Cattle Barons is one of the most effective kickoff events in Texas for basically for all the reasons that Jenny stated there. And you really do want to get that buzz. But there was one thing in particular that you said is you're not necessarily, because sometimes people will do kickoff parties and it's almost like the organization is kind of demanding that anyone go donate. And you kept bringing up prospect, meaning you understand that, some people may cut a check there, but others may not because they need more time to think. And I think the fact that that probably adds to the fun and it eases the pressure off of the donors attending, knowing they don't necessarily have to give in that moment. And you're not pressuring them may mean that they may give more longer term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say, depending on the event, our kickoff party, the way they're structured, the timing, whether or not there's, Cattle Barons Ball, if you're not already a sponsor and you're not invited as our guest, you do have to purchase a ticket. But we have other kickoff events that are free to attend. So I think the kickoff party is really determined on the event itself and what the drivers are behind that pre-event.
Absolutely. And those absolutely true. And it's good that you have, because you've got a range of events, you can do certain ones that are ticketed and other ones that are not ticketed, especially as rocking as the Houston Cattle Barons kickoff party is. I can totally see why that is a ticketed event. And no great event goes without a great theme. So I would love for you to share a little bit about this year's theme and really what was the inspiration behind it and how you all, as an organization, a committee, the Cattle Barons Houston team selected it.
Yeah, so I'll say the American Cancer Society really feels like volunteers are the heart and soul of all that we do. So all of those decisions that we're making, like theme for an event, we're really working hand in hand with our event chairs to help determine that. One of our long time supporters really wanted Tanya Tucker as this year's entertainment. Which surprise, if you didn't know, she is our entertainment this year. So we really wanted a theme that aligned with that. Our theme this year is Lone Star Legends. Obviously, she is a Lone Star legend, but a theme that really celebrates like that rich heritage and that iconic figures of Texas history. And Tanya Tucker is certainly one of them. So that's how we developed the theme. It's really about Texas pride and celebrating, I know we talked about community, but the Houston community, that Texas pride, that rugged experience of Texas, and how we've gotten to where we are today. So we're very excited about Lone Star Legends. We do have to keep it fresh, as we talked about, an event that's been around 30 plus years. We have a running list of previous themes that we're always having to look back to, like let's not repeat this. So I'm very excited about Tanya this year.
All right, so what advice would you give? Because with cattle barons, the theme is probably more often than not it's going to be pretty much Western themed.
Yes.
What advice do you give to an organization to not repeat themes when it's kind of that when you kind of have to do something in a specific couple of lanes on let's say we're going down I-10 and it's 6 lanes. It may not be 1 lane, but maybe you have to stay in 2 or 3 of the 6 lanes going in each direction.
I think here's the two pieces, biggest pieces of advice. Number one, I have reached out to, obviously, we're very lucky. ACS has offices all over the country. I've reached out to other Cattle Barons events and said, hey, can you guys give me the list of what themes have you done previously? I wonder if we've thought of those before. Could we steal something away and, not recreate the wheel if they've already thought of something genius? So I would say that's one. And then two, I would say to seek outside counsel. I tell everyone, like, I don't know everything. I'm smart enough to know that others might know more than me. And so seeking advice or opinions from the chairs or their committee, putting a survey out there to the committee. Hey, we have a 100-person committee. Let's do a contest. Who can come up with the best theme for cattle barons this year? So really trying to solicit outside opinions and engaging other people in the community to help you come up with those big ideas.
Those are both really fantastic, fantastic pieces of advice, especially the first piece about, a lot of times nonprofits can get stuck with what's going on in my own backyard, not realizing that you can take an idea from another city that no one may have experienced or heard of before, and they think it's genius. And I always like to say there is no such thing as a completely original event. Everyone is taking ideas from a bunch of different events to create their own special magical moment. So I'm really glad that you brought that piece up because it's so critical and it's so important.
Absolutely. And we do that not just with themes, but connecting on, hey, what revenue enhancers are you guys doing at your event? Tell me about your event experience. What cool new thing are you doing that we can steal? Because to your point, somebody might be doing it in Oklahoma, but they certainly don't know about it here in Houston. So let's replicate what's making sense in that community and see if we can do it here as well.
Absolutely. And I wanted to turn to another piece here, and that is, each year Houston Cattle Barons honors an individual and or an organization who's made a substantial impact on ACS. So talk a little bit about how the committee and or American Cancer Society selects honorees and what you can tease about this year's honorees.
So the honorees are really selected in conjunction with ACS leadership here in Houston, along with our event chairs. We look at, many things, but who has been involved with ACS across the board, whether it be this last year or the last 30 years? Maybe it is specific to cattle barons, or maybe they funded a mission project. Um, I'll tell you, one of the honorees this year, a corporate honoree, has done a lot of meaningful work for us at our Hope Lodge facility, giving us significant funding for Hope Lodge, but then also providing volunteers who are working with those patients and caregivers every day. So that's one of our big corporate partners I'll share. Another one, our Mission Impact honoree, has been a big supporter of ours across Texas. They are very beloved in the Texas community. They are my favorite grocery store chain, in case that gives you any clue. They have supported, events here in
Yeah.
Houston. Some of their leadership also sits on our American Cancer Society board here in Houston. But more importantly, they have done a lot of impactful work for Texans as a whole, philanthropic work, and specifically for cancer patients across Texas. So I think it's a combination of things, but really looking at who is supporting your work locally and beyond, and who would you like to elevate to honor that year?
Absolutely. And honoring somebody can also be a draw to get other people in because, when people are honored, their crowd will follow them. And that's, a golden opportunity for you all to get, not that every single one of them is going to stay, but to get a portion of them to come back year after year.
Yes, that is true. The third honoree that I had not yet mentioned is also a very iconic, influential Houstonian who has been lightly involved with us, but we would really like to try to help elevate her and potentially cultivate her into our next Cattle Barons Ball chair. So she's somebody I'm very excited about that. I think this could be a great stepping stone for her and her involvement for future ACS opportunities.
I love that you're honoring people for their work and also the work that they can, that they're capable of doing for your organization down the line. So it's kind of like you're honoring the holisticness of the past, present, and the future. And I think that's an amazing way and I never thought about it that way before. That's really impressive about how those honorees are selected and chosen and really reflect a range.
Yeah, we have so many entry points into the organization, whether it be through our events, through volunteering, through Hope Lodge, through mission work. We're constantly bringing people in and looking at what is their connection to ACS, what is our moves management plan with them, and where would we like to cultivate them to? Are they an honoree? Are they a chair? Are they a corporate sponsor? And trying to look ahead over the next 5 years on where would we like to see them go.
That's great. And it's not just about where you are now, it's also about where you are going. And that's a very excellent piece of advice. So I also want to ask you, so when people arrive this year, can you
Mhm.
tease some things that they can expect to experience at this year's Cattle Barons Ball Houston?
Oh, that's a big ask. I can say they can expect the same level of excellence that they come to expect from the American Cancer Society. Obviously, this event has been around for a long time for a good reason. We're iconic. We're a ton of fun. It's going to be a great crowd. You know, we're going to have Tanya Tucker, pig races, and all kinds of other surprises in store. So more to come.
Now, if the pig raises and Tanya Tucker doesn't get you in the door, those surprises should, because they always, Cattle Barons Ball Houston is always known for a good surprise or two. So that is an excellent tease, and I know that people will be really motivated to attend by hearing that. And I know we're coming up on time here, but I always like to end with this one question, and that is, what is one thing all successful fundraising events have in common?
I would say a strong mission tie. A strong mission tie. I think people give to people, people give to the mission. And those are the two pieces I think are most successful, as well as, man, so many things. You said one, and I'm saying three. A strong mission tie, and the people give to people, whether it be development staff, your event chair. It's all about relationships, just like everything else.
Absolutely. And the tie to the mission is important, but it's especially important to remember relationships are so key. And that's what helps create a loyal following. It helps what makes an event successful. And like we've said more than once today, it's more than just the financial contribution. It's all the ways that people can contribute to make, to make an amazing fundraising event. And, Jenny, thank you so much for the time today. This was fantastic. You gave so much great knowledge, and we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Houston's Cattle Barons Ball, benefiting the American Cancer Society, will be held on September 20th, 2025 at the Hilton's Americas in Houston, Texas. For more information, please visit cattlebaronsball.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.